Good evening and welcome. My name is Dr. Nancy Nian. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services for the Anaheim Union High School District. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight as we discuss the process of updating our facilities master planning. Today, we will have LPA architects who specializes in educational facilities planning. All sites has been visited at this point. From LPA, we will have Jim Kitzel, Lindsay Hayward, and Jermaine Lau that'll be presenting. From the district, we will have our facility, the Executive Director of Facilities Maintenance Operations, Patricia Nelly, will be presenting from the district. And finally, there will be opportunities throughout to ask questions during the presentation. I will now turn to Lindsay from LPA to start the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and good evening, everyone. So glad to have you here with us. So we wanted to start the meeting by kind of coming up with a few webinar format protocols, I guess you could call them. So our panelists are going to have our audio and video turned on for the duration of the meeting. We will mute ourselves and hopefully remember to unmute ourselves properly, or we'll be reminded. We do not have audio available for each of you. However, we would like you to use the chat function to participate. And so you can find that on the right side of your screen. So we will be monitoring that and responding either in there or live as we see things come through. So please, we're happy to answer questions. They can be submitted anytime through that chat window. And then throughout the presentation, we have a couple poll questions that we'll be asking and showing results, as well as a closing goals activity. So we hope that you'll participate in those so we get a better understanding of where all your heads are at and who's represented on your side of this virtual meeting. Your voice absolutely matters, and we hope you enjoy the meeting, and we look forward to this and our future interactions together. So with that, we'll get started. So the agenda for this evening, we're going to do a quick icebreaker just to get everybody comfortable with sort of this virtual platform, if you're not already after the last, 2 years of doing this, but always different formats. So we'll do a quick icebreaker to see how that works. And then we'll do a quick introduction relative to why do a master plan. The district has already done one in the past. This is technically an update from 2014 to that master plan, but we want to talk about the why in case you are unfamiliar with this. We want to talk a bit about the good work done to date. Obviously, the district's been busy doing a lot of work over the last handful of years as a result of that master plan. We'll talk a bit about the schedule and what's ahead relative to this work. We'll talk about stakeholder engagement, which we've been doing meetings with school sites already and various focus groups, but this is really our first opportunity to get in front of the community at large. And so this will be one of a couple opportunities, which we'll talk about. We'll talk a bit about prioritization, what we've discussed in some of our focus group meetings to date, and then we'll conclude with a defining success activity where we'd love to hear your input at the end. And then obviously we'll do a question and answer at the end, but as you have them throughout the process, we're happy, and we have a couple of us monitoring the chat, so hopefully we can get to those as we go and make this as interactive as possible. So for our first icebreaker question, if you can use the QR code here down in the corner, or I'm actually going to also drop it in the chat here. And so the question here is, if you made a New Year's resolution, have you already broken it? The answer options being no, I'm crushing it, in which case I'm super envious and I need to get to know you better. I've cheated a couple times, but I'm still making progress. Yes, I gave up within the first week, or maybe along my team is D, what resolution? So if you can use either the link in the chat or the QR code that was on the screen, which I can leave up for a moment, actually, if people are grabbing their phones. And then I'll pop over to our page so we can see the results. We have two other polls that are like this, and then the last one will be predominantly using the chat window. So I'm going to go to this page. I've seen 3 responses so far. And we'll give this a couple minutes because I know this is a little different and new. I think this will refresh on its own. Okay, I appreciate the person who answered what resolution, because we're in the same boat. And I've cheated a couple times. I can respect that as well, but still trying. So A for effort on all accounts there. We'll give this just like 30 more seconds in case people are trying to get their heads around this, and then we'll move on. Okay, I think we'll keep going. There's more opportunity to try that coming up. So next we have this idea of why master plan. So the idea behind a master plan is really just that. It's an effort to, it's a first step in the facilities improvement process. The California Department of Education actually recommends you do this every 3 to 5 years to make sure you understand where you're headed as a district, and also as a piece of applying for state funding. It is recommended for that, again, in order to really understand how you're going to utilize money that's available, whether that's being funded by the state, your community dollars, etc. It's important to really understand and engage local stakeholders such as yourselves, the students, the teachers, the staff at the school sites, to really understand education is sort of one of those ever-evolving things, and we want to understand how to create facilities and update facilities to make sure that we're responding to those changes and having them be as nimble and flexible to address future change. And ultimately, this wants to be a data-driven decision process. And so this is really us collecting a lot of information from all of you who experience, send your kids to, live near, interact with the schools, to make them the best that they can be and a great representation of Anaheim. So this is also building upon Anaheim Union School District's mission and strategic vision. And so ultimately, this lends itself to really supporting that unlimited you mentality. So in terms of the process, this really is a cyclical process in terms of the FMP, or Facilities Master Plan. Sorry, that's my acronym here, already at work. And so really, like I said earlier, the district already did this one time, or has done this before. It was completed, the last Facilities Master Plan, in 2014. And so this is serving as an update, a handful of years later, relative to always wanting to have a plan in place, set that vision, understand what that is, implement what you've talked about, implement some of that vision, understanding that the need is largely greater most times than the ability to fund. And so wanting to take chunks out of that program and be able to implement, and then again, circle back to defining what the need is, plan again, see that vision through, implement, and you can see sort of how that cycle and circle continues. So we are in one of those updates of defining the need once again and planning for that. So there are 4 components to every master plan that we like to talk about, and that's ultimately the educational vision and goals. And that is really to understand where education is headed. How are teachers going to teach in the future? How are students going to learn? What have we learned through the last 2 years of this virtual world? Maybe the importance of outdoor environments, which the district has been working on a lot of improvements there on sites, and really understanding where that's headed so that we can make sure that the facilities that are available to students and staff match what the goals are in terms of how that education is being delivered. Secondly, there's the demographics review. It's really important to understand the trends of how many students are going to be at a campus, when that campus may be getting too big or too small, to really understand how that impacts programs and planning. But that's done through an outside demographer. So that's a consultant that the district has that we utilize the data from to understand sort of projected enrollment over the next 5 years so that we can plan campuses accordingly. And then facilities needs assessments. We've actually had the opportunity to walk every single school site with a school site committee to date to understand what the needs are from their perspective and to be able to see things firsthand. In addition to speaking with them and speaking with district personnel and even maintenance and operations to understand their perspective and their point of view relative to the needs at the school site, from anything from, HVAC units, air conditioning, things like that, down to how curriculum is delivered in a classroom. So we're really trying to understand soup to nuts what needs to happen from a needs standpoint. And then the 4th component is financial analysis, and that's really to understand how is all this going to be paid for. So it's first we have to sort of define the need and put a cost to that, which Jim's going to talk about a little bit later in terms of the process. And then it's really understanding, what funds are available to possibly move some of these projects forward. All of this really stems around the center here, which is why we're online with all of you tonight, is this community outreach relative to wanting as many stakeholders to get involved and have their opinions heard and have their share their knowledge about what they think need to be the goals moving forward. We take all of that information, all those priorities, all of that data, estimate what we draw on each site, and then prioritize throughout the way to ultimately come up with master plan recommendations that we put in front of the Board of Education. So in numbers, really, I mean, this is a large task, right? There's over 28,000 students in the Anaheim Union High School District. That's no small feat, lots of students to educate on a daily basis, lots of staff. And so really wanting to understand kind of what that great impact is, build on the good work done to date. Like I said, there's already been one master plan completed, and as many of you have probably seen, a lot of projects going on in the district over the last handful of years. And so with that, we actually want to get a better understanding of why you might be attending this evening. So that leads us to our second poll question, which is, why are you attending this evening, and what is your interest in this update process? And that can be anything. I don't know if we've covered all facets here with our answer options, but I have a child or children in school. I'm a community member and recognize schools underpin my home value. You may want to choose more than one of these. Actually, I'm interested in learning more about the district school facilities improvement program, or none of the above. We wanted to kind of capture the gamut. And again, I will actually shoot this link over in the chat in case that's an easier format for folks to utilize. And then I can pull that one up. Bear with me in my multiple programs here. I think if we click on this, we'll have more responses come in. Interested in learning more. Community member, this is great. We'll just wait a couple more seconds and see if we get a few more responses. Okay, I think we'll head back over to our PowerPoint. So with that, if you are or aren't familiar with the good work the district has done to date, based on the outcomes of the 2014 master plan, the district has had the opportunity, thanks to the support of the community, actually, when they passed Measure H, to begin implementing a good chunk of projects that were slated and prioritized as a part of the 2014 master plan. And so Patty's actually going to hop on, and we're going to flip through a handful of slides that talk about a lot of the good work that's been implemented, or a few projects that are actually still in progress and are slated to come soon. So Patty, I'll hand it over to you, and you just tell me when to forward a slide.
Okay, let's start now. Good evening, everybody. My name is Patty Neely. I'm Executive Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Operations. I want to get started with the first slide here. They're organized by category. The first one shows our aquatic centers. We've done 3 since 2018. The first one is our beautiful aquatic center at Anaheim High School. It is a project that completed in 2019, valued at $13 million. And it's the newest pool in the district. It's a 38 and the largest, 38 meters. The next one is Cypress High School. It was part of the site improvement project, and this is also a project that completed in 2020, valued at $2.8 million. Along with this, there's a third one that is not represented here. It's the Aquatic Center at Loera High School. That one also completed in 2020, and it is valued at $3.1 million. Next slide, please, Lindsay. The next group would be our site improvement projects. We've done several of those with our Measure H bond. The first one that we're showing here is Cypress High School. Cypress was completed in 2019, and it's valued at $9 million. The next one is Kennedy High School. The site improvement project completed in 2019, valued at $6.2 million. And this one, both projects here, not only improved the parking lots, where we also not only looked at replacing the section of pavement, but also improving the layout, the circulation within the parking lots. In Cypress, we did a complete modernization of the quad, and the focus at Kennedy was introducing the safety and security features, such as the fencing to enclose the campus, and some landscape beautifications, including the new marquee. Next slide, please. Another site improvement project occurred at Savannah High School. That project completed in 2020, valued at $20.5 million. And it included, again, the new parking lot, new tennis courts, complete redo of the quad, named Quigley Quad with clock tower, and new landscaping, including landscaping and a new secured point of entry and fencing. Next slide. Another project here. This is actually at Catella High School, our first Measure H project. It completed in 2017, and it was a complete redo of the quad. Actually, I would say the entire campus, fencing of the campus, and also with this project, the district was granted the DROPS grant valued at $2 million, where we were able to start our California Heritage Garden, which is actually an educational space. This project, like I said, completed in 2017 and valued at $6.2 million in construction cost. I'm sorry, $11 million in construction cost. Next to that, we're showing Ball Junior High School. That one is a modernization and a site improvement project. The modernization piece of it, or the scope of work, is the modernization of the administration building, fencing of the entire campus, a redo of the quad and the landscape, also a new parking lot and a new drop-off area. That project is completing within the next 2 months, and it is valued at $9 million construction cost. Next slide, please. The next slide shows work on the right side, also done at Savannah High School. And I'm sorry, yeah, Savannah High School, and that is the phase 2 of that modernization project. And that was the shower lockers that we've completed, and some of the athletics, the entry to the athletics facility. And that project completed in early 2021, valued at $5 million. And to the left, it's the district's new Cambridge Virtual Academy. It's actually housed in an existing facility that was not in use, known as Polaris, and it's actually located on the Dale Junior High School campus. That project is valued at $6.1 million, and it completed in 2021. Next slide. This project is the district's ILAB at Western High School. It is the first Measure H project at Western High School, the first of 2 more to come. And this one completed a couple of months ago, and it's valued at $1.1 million. Next slide. Now we're entering into the category of new construction. This first slide depicts the work that we've done at Oxford High School, Oxford Academy. And this is the photo of the new music building. And there's also to the right, the Oxford Academy Library. This project completed in 2019, and it was valued at $9.3 million. Next slide, please. This is our new Dale Junior High School campus. As of today, the largest Measure H project in the district. And it has two components. The one that we're seeing here on this slide is the new construction, which is a two-story building housing all the administrative functions, a new library on the second floor, and science labs and STEAM labs on the second story. This project is completed in 2021, and it's valued at 18.2. This is the new construction. The modernization, which I'm not sure if we're showing, if there's a slides to that, but basically it's a modernization of the entire campus, valued at $21.6 million, also completed in 2021. Next slide. So these are projects that are in progress and soon to complete. In this slide, we're showing our Sycamore Junior High School campus. This is the entry. Part of the scope of work was included the modernization of the administration building to create that single point of entry to secure the campus with a new fencing. Basically, it's a new quad, new landscaping, and then a new lunch area with shade structures and a new parking lot and drop-off areas. So this will be the phase one of more work that needs to be done at Sycamore High School, Junior High School. Next slide, please. So this is our Magnolia High School project. We have two projects currently under construction there with our utilizing our Measure H dollars. On the right side, we're showing the new quad, which is part of the site improvement project. So in that area, we've done a new band stage, a theater-like, amphitheater-like quad, and it's a whole revamp of that space, new landscaping, fencing, new tennis courts, and also many shade structures, including covered speed lines for our lunch areas. Also, part of this project, it's a separate project, but within the same campus, it's a different contract. It's the complete overhaul and modernization of our shower lockers. To the left, we're showing a future project coming up soon, valued at $32 million. It's the district's cybersecurity building. It's a two-story building, classroom, and administration functions within that building that will be supporting the district's CTE cybersecurity pathway. So that one will be completing soon, coming out of plan check with Division of State Architect, and soon going out to bid. We hope to be under construction in 2022. To the right of that two-story building is a future auditorium, multi-purpose use building for visual and performing arts, esports. And that one is designed to a 50% completion, and future funding, when it becomes available to the district, will allow us to complete or to continue with the design and construction of this building. Next slide. Or that might actually complete the presentation. So right now, thank you for hopefully you enjoyed the photos and all the work that we're doing. There's more to come, including, I'm going to use this time to just mention that in the next couple of months, you're going to start seeing solar coming to our campuses, all district sites, within, I would say, the next 6-7 months. They're going to start, you're going to start seeing some of those structures go up. So with that being said, I'm going to, it's Jim's turn, Jim Kissel. So Jim.
Thanks, Patty. Um, I'll turn to Lindsay here so that you can do this poll question.
Sure.
We want to see here if anybody that's on the call has a connection to any of the school sites. You can select more than one. So this is going to be similar to the other polls. Use the QR code or the link that is in the chat to go to the questionnaire and select sites that you may have a connection to.
So
There's also one choice is none of the above.
I'll leave this up for just a moment in case people are using the QR code, and then I'll hop over to the results. Got a couple in so far. So it looks like South Junior High, fabulous, and none of the above. Okay. So, it refreshes on its own. Excellent. So looks like we have some good Sycamore Junior High, as well as Anaheim High School and Catella High School. Thank you so much for being here. A couple from Sycamore and Anaheim. All right. Well, Jim, why don't we head back? People can continue to populate this if desired, and we will track the results.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's always great to know as we're meeting with the public which school sites are represented. We very often get questions from board members about who we interacted with and which sites were part of that process. So right now within the facilities master plan, is there a line that comes up that shows where we're at, Lindsay? Oh, there isn't. Okay.
Sorry.
Basically, in any master plan, there's three phases of work. There's the research, the analysis, and the synthesis of that information into a plan for the district. And currently, we are completing the research phase. So we've been gathering input from district stakeholders internal to the sites. We have been meeting with different program focus groups to understand the educational vision of the district and the needs at the sites as you overlay the program vision onto the campuses, what works and what doesn't work. But basically, we've been learning as much as we can about the district around those four components of the master plan that Lindsay mentioned, which is the demographics, the financial aspects, the educational vision, and the condition of the facilities. And we're now entering the synthesis phase where we really want to begin to interact with stakeholders from the school sites and the community. So those are the orange boxes there at the top of the schedule. We are in the first meeting today, which is just an open community forum for us to basically review the process and also solicit input from those of you on the call today or on the YouTube channel today to understand what you think some of the needs are in the district and what some of the goals for the master plan should be. Moving ahead in the schedule, the next orange box, we have a meeting with the Citizens Oversight Committee in mid-February. Another meeting in mid-February is a meeting with the district's LCAP committee, which is required by the state. And so we'll be doing a very similar meeting to today with both of those groups. And then coming in early March, we have two more community forums, and these will be scheduled on the east and west side of the district. So the school sites on the east side and the school sites on the west side. We'll have more information about these meetings at the end of this PowerPoint. But we're hoping that those can be in person in early March. Also attending those meetings besides the public at large will be the school site committees for each of the campuses within that area of the community. And then around mid-April, when we start to have draft master plan recommendations, we'll have another open community forum, such as this one, to solicit public input on the draft recommendations before we go to the Board of Education with a workshop for their input. If we can go to the next slide, Lindsay. An outcome of the master plan process is the development of a site master plan diagram for each of the campuses within the district. That takes into account existing buildings that need to be improved, as well as additional structures that we may want to add to the campuses that reflect the educational program vision of the district. Go to the next slide. And once all of these diagrams have been approved, and I will say they are just diagrams, they are not complete architectural plans. When individual projects move forward, just as the district has done during Measure H, an architect is hired and a school site committee is formed to develop the ultimate proposal based on the budget and scope of work established in the master plan. Once we have the diagrams complete for each of the sites, we estimate um, all the different scopes of work at each campus. And those scopes of work are broken down into different subcategories, such as modernization, new construction, administration, safety and security, uh, 21st century learning, and different aspects. Because basically, a district can never afford everything within the master plan all at once. And so by breaking the scope of work at each campus down into different categories, it assists in the prioritization of that so the highest needs rise to the top and can be married with the funding that the district could potentially have available for the next phase of work. So we will be cost estimating the diagrams. Lindsay, the next slide. And then one of the other things we've been doing is every single group that we interact with, we are asking, what are your three highest priorities? And we're asking that of the school site committees. We're going to be asking that in our community forum. We have surveys out to the teachers, or surveys going out soon to the teachers, to the district staff, and to students. And so we're going to be able to collect all of these different data points of what each group thinks the highest needs are for the next phase of work. If you go to the next slide. And then these are all analyzed and brought together to look for common themes because when, as I said, the needs are always greater than the ability to fund, and you want to make sure that there's a roadmap within the master plan that says, okay, here's the dollars that could be available for the next phase of work, and here's the scope of work that aligns with that. And the Board of Education is the group primarily tasked with lining those two things up. But by us asking asking priorities of all the different groups that we interact with, we can run scenarios for the board around those common themes and say if based on all the input we had from all the different stakeholders that we interact with, when you apply those priorities to the needs within the master plan, this is what a potential program could look like. And so all the input that we gather from both the community and the school sites and the district staff is very important because it helps the board shape their decision regarding the next phase of work to propose. And if we can go to the next slide. And as we're proposing that roadmap forward, we want to be very cognizant of the dollars that are available and not over promising because it takes 6 to 8 years, if not longer sometimes, to implement a district funding program. And you want to make sure that the projects promised at the end of the program are delivered by not having the projects that went first go over budget. So we want to make sure that we're appropriating an appropriate contingency and not over promising what can be delivered. So this is an example of a school district where they had approximately $300 million available, but we only allocated $200 million of that to the projects within the master plan because you need that other 1/3 to cover things like escalation, for interim housing, for unknowns, for program contingency, all of those things that could happen but can't be really defined as part of the master plan. So we want to be very clear with as part of that roadmap what is promised and then what are the next projects that would come up in terms of priority in case the district has savings within their program or additional dollars are identified. If we go to the next slide. So as I said, we've been interacting with the district's internal staff over the last several months to really understand what is the district's program vision, what are the needs of things like food service, technology, transportation, as well as all the other support facilities at a school site. If you go to the next slide. And there's been some common themes coming out of it. So as you saw in Patty's presentation, the themes of Measure H in terms of the projects have really revolved around safety, security, 21st century environments and flexible furniture, site infrastructure, which includes both beautification of the campuses as well as repair and replacement of campus utilities. They've looked at energy and water efficiency. They've looked at modernization, and they've looked at solar projects at the various campuses. So those are some of the common themes of the work that is currently taking place at the campuses. But what we're really hearing of the beginning to hear in terms of the needs for the future include supporting students, their families, and the community at each school site. So the development of student wellness centers, college and career center, and spaces appropriate for the counseling and the itinerant support programs such as speech and psychologists at the campuses, a family resource center and community resource center at the campuses. We want to make sure that the learning spaces, particularly at the high schools, facilitate the career technical education programs that the district is developing a specialty at each of their different high schools, so that those pathways have appropriate industry standard spaces to learn in. So the career technical education we're hearing is a priority. We're hearing the need for flexible libraries that support the needs of today and future learners, and that these libraries are not just a place to access content, in other words, not just to access books and other things, but also to create content. The need for proper science labs, the need for VAPA support spaces, so really talking about those STEM and STEAM program specialized spaces. We want to have parity for athletics, supporting both the girls and the boys programs, and then a field house to support the athletic programs out in the fields and hardcourt areas, which could include restrooms, team rooms, as well as storage facilities for the athletic equipment. And these are the themes that we've begun to hear from all the different stakeholder groups. If we can go to the next slide. So what we want to do right now is for everybody on the call here this evening is to really hear from you within the chat. What do you think some of the goals for the master plan process should be? What items do you think are critical for us to address? And based on the campuses that you know, what do you think some of the needs are? So I would say, please use the chat right now, and we are looking for your input. And we also realize that there's a 15 to 20-second delay between what we're presenting and when you all hear it on the YouTube channel. And actually, Lindsay, do we want to give out an email that maybe they can, I don't know if because we had some issues previously on actually using the chat because you needed to create a
channel.
a channel using your Google account. So it looks like here's the first question coming through.
There's a question, yeah.
What is the status of the repairs to the Cook Auditorium at Anaheim High School? And I think I'll turn that over to Patty.
We are currently in the process of selecting architects. We just got the new batch of architects selected. We are going through the first round of signing agreements, and we're going to start assigning new work to these new firms that the district has hired. And one of those projects will be the renovation of Cook Auditorium. So more information will be communicated soon. But at this point, we're in the process of selecting architects. That's
And
our first step.
And this would be a Measure H funded project?
No, it will not.
Okay. And I would say, Lindsay, do we want to give an email in case there are questions that somebody hasn't been able to set up the chat appropriately to submit a question?
Sure.
Do you mind giving one of our emails
I can do that.
in the chat?
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to see that if
They can
if
see the
they
questions. Oh, but yeah, that's true.
maybe it just should be sent out in an email or something through Letty or something?
A second question. There are issues with water quality at both Western High School and Savannah High School pools. Are there plans to repair them?
Yes, right now we're actually in the process of renovating Magnolia High School and Catella High School. Western and Savannah will be next.
Another question here is that Hope School needs appropriate facilities for students with special needs that are ADA friendly. And Lindsay, I don't know, you want to talk about what you were actually working on today in terms of the master plan?
Yeah, actually, so we are working on updating the ed specs, the educational specifications from the previous facilities master plan, and we've had the opportunity. That was actually one of the focus groups we were able to meet with in terms of just making sure appropriate facilities are on different campuses. We do know that special ed programs can come and go. So the idea as part of these new plans is to make sure that there's an appropriate sort of restroom with changing facilities and at least one of those type of support spaces on every campus. So no matter what programs sort of make come and go, that we're making sure that there's adequate facilities for some of those greater needs at different campuses. At Hope School in particular, having walked that site not all that long ago before the holidays, definitely want to consider it as that population has some more how do I want to say that? Specialized needs, I guess you should say. And so we will be addressing those as a part of the plan as well.
Particularly ADA. We'll be looking at path of travel and universal access at all the facilities. Another question is, when can Anaheim expect Cook to be in use again?
That will be communicated soon. Like I said, our first step is to select the architect. Once we do that, then we start determining what the scope of work is. We also establish our schedules for not only design, but also the time it would take to go through the plan approval process with the state. And then we would determine the construction time. So that would give us the overall schedule and a good idea of when we can have a grand opening. So at this point, it's just too soon because we're in the initial state, which is of selecting the architect.
And it looks like there's not additional questions or anything coming through currently. Oh, is Cook going to be a full teardown?
That remains to be evaluated. This has this facility obviously has a lot of history, and our goal would be to really take a good look at preserving it. So at this point, the way we're approaching it, it would be as a rehabilitation and a major renovation.
I think we're also interested in hearing if any anybody besides questions has just some thoughts regarding what they think the goals and the needs within the facilities master plan. Obviously, you know, the VAPA facilities have been coming up in a number of different cases, and so thinking of the auditoriums and the visual and performing arts areas of the campuses has been a priority. Well, maybe we can go. We'll continue to monitor the chat if there are questions, and maybe we can go on to the next steps. We are nearing the end of the presentation. We really wanted this primarily to be the second half of the meeting to be a listening session for those that are on the YouTube channel. But our next steps are we're going to be having 2 community forums near the end of February and early March, and at these forums you're going to be able to see the campuses within that side of the district and the diagrams that are as a draft proposal for each of those different school sites in terms of the improvements proposed, as well as a representation of the work that has been completed at each campus to date. The school site committees for each school will be there, and it is open to the public as well. So we encourage everybody to attend where you show interest. There will be more information about this coming up on the district's website regarding not only this information here, the specific time and location, but also information regarding which school sites are going to be at the West Side Forum and which school sites are going to be at the East Side Forum. But our first meeting is on Monday, February 28th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Cypress Community Center. There will be some aspect of presentation to the first half of the meeting, and then the second half of the meeting will be actually breaking out and everybody going to look at the school sites and the LPA and district staff available there to answer any questions that people have on the campuses. These are draft master plan proposals that are going out to them. We fully expect as they go back to the school sites and at the interaction of the forum to change and evolve. We want to make sure that the master plan proposals specifically represent the needs of the users at the various campuses. Our second session on the east side will be on Monday, March 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. And this one will be held at the La Palma room at the district office. So as I said, there'll be a lot more information coming up over the next month on the district's website regarding these 2 sessions. I do see we have a couple questions.
Yes.
Lindsay, there was one question came in via email.
Is there any talk of a second gym at Anaheim High School?
Patty?
Well, what I would say is attend the community forum number 3 at the East Side Schools on March 7th, 6 to 8, and we will discuss it. But yes, to answer your question, we are looking at that very seriously.
And in terms of just some thoughts here, not a question, but these seem like goals for the master plan. The first one is our schools need to be able to use the VAPA facilities. So the auditoriums are critical to the school sites. And we have heard that, as well as not only the auditoriums, but the VAPA spaces for instruction as well. And also we need to look at our athletic facilities, make sure they're in good condition. Please look at the pools at both Western and Savannah. And we have definitely heard those comments as well to date from other folks that we've been interacting and interviewing through this process. There will be an upcoming Western High School athletic field improvement project that is coming up in terms of a practice field being developed for that campus. That we didn't show the drawings of it, but that is a project that is currently in design and will be moving to construction shortly.
There's another comment about Hope.
How about a first gym for Hope? And Lindsay, is there not a gym there?
There's not a gym there. And
There's not.
that was talked about with the school site. That was a need that was expressed as a part of that meeting. That's what we heard from the school site committee, amongst many, many other things. So thank you for that comment.
We'll give it a few more minutes here, just so if anyone has any other questions in the chat. Because we're really at the end stage of our presentation. We have a second request for the
request, yeah.
The gym at Hope. The gym at Hope. Maybe if we can go to the next slide, Lindsay. I'll do the closing while we're waiting to see if anything else comes through. So just as our final closing statement. Oh, here's a couple. Regarding the
I'll
fountain at
respond to the Hope one too. Yes, that was also discussed as a part of the site meeting in terms of one stall for the staff. So plumbing counts will be looked at as a part of that.
Yes.
And I think we were even troubleshooting the where on site. So stay tuned.
Yeah, one of the things besides hearing from the district, what are the program needs of the campuses? We're also using our almost 30 years of educational expertise and doing school facilities within California. So when we're looking at the plumbing code, when we're looking at ADA improvements, whether we're looking at path of travel or other issues, we're overlaying all those other things that the state, either the California Department of Ed or the Division of State Architect would be expecting to see in terms of improvements at the campuses as well. So we will be taking those into account. But just in final closing here.
Well, hold on, Jim. I just want to acknowledge the other comment about the fountain at Anaheim Squad that
Okay,
should be
go ahead.
removed or repaired. So that was just a comment that came in. So we'll take note of that as well as we work on that site's draft master plan.
Great, and we appreciate the thank yous coming through as well. I will say master planning is one of the most complicated things that we do as architects and planners. And so one of the things we did, I want to say a half dozen years ago, is develop guiding principles for how LPA approaches a facilities master plan with our clients. So we want to make sure that it is people driven. It's driven by both the district and community stakeholders that are engaged. It's research informed, and we want to be focusing on how to increase the quality of the facilities. So it facilitates the programs that increase student outcomes and achievement. Wants to be learner centered, basically the student at the center of all those spaces. Exploratory in terms of pursuing options. Transparency in terms of everything that we are doing, hence all the public outreach and all the different meetings that we're doing. Implementable, having that path forward within the master plans, having projects tied to funding that the district could have, in long range, looking out in terms of the recommendations for the long-term improvement of the facilities, not only in the next phase of work, but how does that then dovetail with the work that could be required beyond that in the future. And with that, if we go to the next slide, Lindsay, I think this is the end of our community forum, and we really appreciate you all spending the time with us here this evening. And if there are additional questions that come up, please use the email address that was in the chat to send those to us after the meeting. And also spread the word, I think, to others that you may know within the school site and district and community at large regarding the upcoming meetings for late February and early March. We truly are looking for the community's input, and we would like to have as many people participate as possible. There was one last question. Will be a Spanish translation be available of this? And maybe I would turn that over to John Bautista with the district. How do you usually do that for the board meetings on the YouTube channel? It looks like John is muted there, Patty. Oh. Okay, so it will be. Okay, so if anyone couldn't hear that on the YouTube channel, once the meeting is posted following this evening, there will be a translation available there. And
There's
another question that
Another question.
came through is how are projects decided and for what takes priority? Well, that's why we're here this evening and listening to input, because we're going to bring, as I said, all of those data points to the Board of Education for the board to make the ultimate decisions regarding the priority projects and how to align those with funding. But we want to let them know, what did we hear from every single stakeholder group that we interacted with in terms of their priorities. So we are recording the meeting this evening and are capturing the comments that are in the chat.
There's also another comment.
And we will look at future meetings in terms of how we facilitate translation. Well, thank you everybody for being here this evening. And as I said, spread the word and look for more information on the district's website regarding future upcoming sessions. And with that, John, I think we can close the YouTube meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.